Bam. And
Well, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to
Good afternoon.
Gonna See Your Friends podcast. Stephen Garcia, Toby Ballinger, here with our good friend Scott Taylor.
That's me, this guy.
Old buddy.
Mm-hmm.
What's up,
Welcome.
Scott?
Emphasis on old.
That's exactly right.
Well, I appreciate you having me on your, is it podcast? Is that what this is called?
Yeah, it's
That's what it's...
Podcast.
It's what the kids are doing these days.
Podcast? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I look forward to tuning in on my car radio and listening.
Good.
Yeah. Wherever you listen to podcasts, we are available. Good to have you on, dude, because
Thank you.
We're still it's a fledgling podcast, but we're getting better.
I appreciate you making it full circle. I'm pretty sure I was the last middle-aged white guy to be on a podcast, so we've come full circle, and I appreciate the exposure.
Yes.
Exactly right.
Before we start, I wanted to show you guys this thing. I got this on vinyl.
Oh,
It's
wow.
the extended soundtrack. I got this I think last year on Record Store Day, and it's got all the Jolai's. It's got all the songs.
No, it does not have all the songs that she sang.
But it's performed by Nancy Wilson instead of
sweet.
Lily Taylor.
That makes sense.
Yeah, and it's great. It's pretty awesome. Anyways, I wanted to share that with you before we got started.
I've got a prop as well.
Okay, let's see it. Yes. Wait, is that the
VHS? And that's autographed by Mr. Cusack.
No way!
Really?
Where'd you meet him?
Yep.
Where did you?
It was a convention. It was Silicon Valley Comic Con, I think it was called. Yeah. And it used to be WonderCon before that.
Oh yeah,
WonderCon. I remember we went to a WonderCon.
We did, yeah. We used to drive down there, and back before it was like super pop culture, and it was just a lot of vendors and comics and stuff. And this was they started getting bigger names in it, and Cusack was one of the people. So wow, I'm doing it.
Well, that kind of goes to our conversation that we had yesterday, our kind of pre-interview or whatever, when we were talking about his you brought up his black hat era.
Yeah, there's you can look at Mr. Cusack's IMDb page, and it's like great, good, and then it turns into the I've never heard of these movies, which happens with a lot of actors. But there's definitely a hat era. If you look at the movie posters, he's wearing this black baseball cap in like 3 or 4 in a row, and then there's like a cowboy cap, and then there's no hat, and then another hat. Yeah. He was wearing the black hat when I saw him. So
he was?
Yeah. So that must have been during that time.
That movie I was telling you about yesterday was Drive Hard.
Oh yeah,
I don't know how I found that. I think it was on Amazon at one point, and it was like I saw Thomas Jane and Cusack on the cover, and I thought, I've never heard of this one, and this was probably about 7 years ago, and so I just started watching it, and I immediately went, oh no. and and it was like they filmed it in Australia, and it was just like there was no acting. It was just like, yeah, we're here making a movie, and it was just horrible. Anyway, yeah. Then he was wearing a black hat through that one too. That was pretty. That made me laugh when he said that yesterday.
There's a similar trajectory with Nick Cage too.
Yeah, they did a couple movies together. Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and then you got all these like straight to video, straight to streaming type of things that are just kind of hit or miss. But it's like, okay, I can still act. I'm still going to bring in a paycheck.
Yeah, and I'm hoping that he, I don't want to say come back in terms of like he's, washed up or anything, but I'd like to go through a theater and see what some good stuff. I think the last thing I saw him in was 2012, back in like 2009. I think that was the last thing I saw him in. But I know he's
Renaissance. Renaissance.
Yeah. So, anyways, so this week we got Say Anything, as we kind of showed everybody, and this one came out in, let's see, what was it? I have it written down here. 1989. and April 14th. That was 2 days after my birthday too. Um, so I don't even remember seeing it in the theaters. I think I saw it on VHS, but I remember seeing the trailer all the time, and
Mhm.
I had no idea. I was, a freshman in high school, so I didn't really understand what it was. And but Scott, where were you when you first saw this movie?
I did not see it in theater. I did
Yeah.
not become a diehard Cusack fan until I was probably about 16. I was working
Oh.
at Toys R Us and the dock, and I
No.
remember like an older gentleman started working there, and he was like, "You look like John Cusack," and I was like,
Uh,
"What? I've never heard of him." And so I started investigating John Cusack, and then started renting the movies and watching the movies. And I think that was around the time Con Air was coming out. I
no.
want to say
Okay.
Sweet.
around that time. Was that
It was like
90?
late '90s, '97, I think.
Yeah, because this would have been like 96,
Okay.
97.
All right.
And so I started getting into Cusack and watching. But I remember specifically Say Anything. I remember
Uh-huh.
going to the video store with a female friend and just looking for a Cusack movie and grabbing Say Anything and saying, "Oh, let's watch this. It's got
Yeah.
Cusack." And
Yeah.
then watching it, downstairs in my cousin's basement.
And yeah. How about you, Tobe? Like, where were you when you first saw this?
I honestly don't remember. I am a Cusack fan. I certainly was at the time. This would have been high school for me. I was I was mildly obsessed with Better Off Dead, and I think I watched
Oh,
that 400 or 500 times. It seemed like, and so I think I kind of skipped over this one somehow. It
yeah.
would have been you know HBO maybe that it happened to come on. I don't think it was one that I would have chosen, and I have a reason why for that is that I was kind of in a similar situation as Lloyd is in this in 1989, where I was like had the crush on the girl who didn't know who I was, and my best friend at the time, Rob, kept telling me, "You need to see Say Anything, and what you got to do is take the boombox over to her house and hold it up." And I was like so afraid of that, of actually doing that, that I
Yeah.
think I blocked this movie out. And now, like, I can't see that because don't tempt
Oh, yeah.
me, don't tempt me to do, with a good time. So I think I probably saw this the first time uh, reluctantly.
Oh,
But after that, it's been, it's just part of the
yeah.
zeitgeist where,
Yeah.
you know,
Oh, yeah.
you've seen it now. I've seen it dozens of times, but it had been a while. It had been, I don't
Well,
remember the last time I'd seen it. It's probably been 15 or 20 years since I'd seen it last.
yeah. Well, I when I watched it last night, I got emotional.
Yeah.
Because I hadn't seen it in a while. I own it. Um, and I hadn't seen it in like besides last night, probably in a good year, maybe. And but every time I watch it, I just get so emotional because I was like you, Tobe. Like I just loved all these senior girls in my high school that were
Mhm.
just like cheerleaders, whatever. Not a lot of them, but I was pretty girl crazy. But I'd never had a girlfriend. Girls were always just kind of like it was always just always work. My friends could just be like, have girls attracted to them and they would do whatever. But I was always the dude that was like, come on, please.
Mhm.
But so yeah, I always had that little kind of fascination with uh with the girl that I couldn't have or something. I don't know, but that's why I related to this so much. And I didn't really. Oh yeah, what I was saying was, so I get emotional when it ties me back to that time, and so I was laughing a lot, and I was kind of sniffing or sniveling, and at the times, just because it's so earnest, the movie, and it's so like you can easily some of the performances you could easily just go too much in one way or the other, and it would probably take you out of the movie. But it's all the performances are really good, and especially John Mahoney and John Cusack and Ione Scott. They're all so. It's just a great. It's written really well and it's acted really well and it's directed really well. Because I was watching some of the outtakes too after I watched the movie, and you can see kind of the versions of scenes that are in the theatrical cut, and you could see how they were kind of trying to work it in other ways, and especially the scene where she comes back at the end, and says "I love you," in the dojo. There's a scene where they're doing it outside and they're trying to do it, and you can see how it's just not working, but it's there, and why they used the one that they used. So I mean, it's just a great movie all around. I don't know. So yeah, that's my 2 cents about it.
Yeah, this was Cameron Crowe's directorial debut, if I understand it right.
Yeah, he was talking about it with I guess James L. Brooks, and they worked on it for a couple of years, and he was going to originally direct it, but God, my face just got all
Brooks
red.
was going to direct it?
Yeah,
okay.
And then then he decided, well, no, this is your thing, and you could probably get the performances that you need out of it better than I could. So that's what I read, anyways. A little investigation on the trivia.
I mean, it's certainly you can certainly tell that he wrote it because we had seen Fast Times and and then after this Singles, and I had forgotten that in the opening, I don't know if it's the actual opening, but when Lloyd's at home and Joan comes home, he's listening to Mother Love Bone on the stereo, and I went,
which scene?
In the opening scene where he's at the apartment, and his
sister,
who plays his sister in real, Joan, who's his sister in real life, who comes home and he's all, "Hey, what's up, sis?" The stereo, they're playing Mother Love Bone, and whenever I hear Mother Love Bone in a James Cameron movie, I always think of Singles because it was such a big part of Singles. Cameron Crowe. Sorry, you're right. I knew I was going to do that. That's why I wrote Cameron Crowe on my piece of paper so I don't say James Cameron. But yes, you're right.
Wow.
And so he goes on and does Singles, and Mother Love Bone was such a big part of Singles, written on it, spray painted on the walls, and of course the guys from Mother Love Bone are in it, and other than Andy Wood, of course. But I just thought I had to remember which movie came first. Did he Say Anything? And that Singles came along a couple of years later. Of course, he wrote and directed that as well. But this was like the jump off point. I mean, he's a big Seattle guy, and at 1989, the biggest band, one of the biggest bands is, I think Mother Love Bone's album Apple had just come out. And was the biggest thing in the world.
Yeah, grunge is just about to start in the next year or two, Hey, so Scott, what are some key scenes that you that really at the beginning, like what that really kind of come to mind?
I like that Toby mentioned earlier, like Better Off Dead, and I like that it's got, the movie has earnestness in it, but you also have those kind of gag type things like the car purchase and that. You have those types of gag things that kind of go on, but it's kind of intermediary between something like Better Off Dead and then moving on to movies without that type of trope in it. He's got that little thing when he starts the radio and he's driving and it starts to skip. So he already has the match boxes or the match things. So here, you can tell that he's been doing this. That's awesome. Yeah. Yeah, you got the guys pulling out the camcorders, all at once. You see all of them. So those little things that kind of, almost Naked Gun-esque,
Yes.
That's the principle that hey, or
check me out.
Check me out. Like he's like it's some sort of like, that's that first scene when she's doing the speech, I think.
So rough, dude. You're so cringy. Oh, I love it.
Yeah, and it's like, but it's it's her going, just go back, and her
Yeah,
dad.
great.
Mm-hmm.
She's so
Was that
right
loud?
too.
Sorry.
Yes, she's so right. I'm like, I wrote that down
Yeah.
because I'd forgotten about it. Again, it's probably been 20 years since she says go back, and it's deadly quiet, and her dad's all ha. Loved it, dude. I
And he's
laughed
still
out
proud
loud.
of it.
I
He's
forgot
like looking
all
around
about
like,
it.
hey.
It's so good.
Um,
I'm feeling that.
Yeah, I have that one written down too. Hey, Will, check me out. How about you, Tobe? What's another scene that comes to mind when you?
Oh my god. Okay, so this another thing that actually happened to me, and I didn't get it until I didn't understand it until I went back and saw the movie. Again, my buddy Rob, I throw a party senior year in high school, so it's 1991.
Oh, okay.
And the whole freaking school's going to show up to this thing. And I'm actually playing in a football game, so I'm not going to be home when the party starts. So I have my buddy Rob, my buddy Rick, who went to a different school. I said, is there any way that you can be here for when people start to arrive? And they said, yeah, of course, we'll be here. And he goes, what? And Rob, in his infinite wisdom, says, you know what you need for a big party is a key master.
Oh.
So he starts collecting keys from everybody, and he was a sober guy. And I get to the party and I see, hey, how's everything going? He's walking around with a pillowcase full of keys. And then at some point, a couple hours later, somebody comes up to me and says, hey, where's your friend with all the keys? I need to go home. He had left to go to Santa Rosa to drive somebody, and he took like 100 sets of keys with him. So when Lloyd's made the keymaster right when he shows up to the party, I was just all, oh my god! I was like so many flashbacks. I'm all, oh, this movie is killing me right now, dude. I've forgotten all about this stuff.
Yeah.
That party scene is great, and the guy who, Mark, Jeremy Piven's character, is phenomenal. That party scene I really liked a lot. I guess that first part of the movie, but
well, I think Jeremy Piven is definitely a nominee for the Clay Thompson Award.
He's mine, so yeah, good.
Okay, we'll get to that later. We'll get to that.
Okay, he's one of mine anyway.
I have all these written down as well. Let's see, dinner. Yeah, and then at the party, Corey songs. I mean that scene when they're always talking about, I'm fine. Well, you did try to yourself, and then the songs are just the song. Every time I hear those songs, it's just kind of brings me back to that moment. Because I didn't know anybody like that specifically, but I knew people that were that dramatic in high school. I was probably one of them. But yeah, that scene always comes to mind. Scott, you got any other one?
In the first half, the nuances of things that you can watch Cusack do that bring back those feels. One that jumped out at me is when he's calling her on the phone and he pauses on that last number before he hits that last number to dial, and he centers himself and readies himself, and then hits the button. I remember doing that. You make those calls, and you're just like, you want them to pick up, but you don't want them to pick up.
Right.
Just the anxiety there. That phone call scene to me was very spot on when you were trying to make that initial attempt to get someone to go out with you. And
that's the thing with the performance that he gives. It's so nuanced because there's so many times when, his character is obviously, what's the word? Long-winded sometimes, but and he'll make something real kind of awkward, but that's just his thing in that character thing. And so that pops up so many times throughout the movie that it's just, for me, it's really endearing to kind of what makes him so, I don't know what the word is, like, it makes him so lovable. I don't know, for lack of a better
makes him real.
Right. There you go. Like
just
real.
like what Scott was just saying is that, you've done that 100 times. And the fact that if that was his choice or if that was Cameron Crowe's choice to, when you get to the end, don't just blast through these numbers because you got that little touch. It's things like that you don't catch the first time you're watching the movie, or maybe you do because you are that guy.
Yeah. Well, I didn't. I mean, I'm just hearing about it now. When Scott just pointed it out, like I'm gonna go back and watch and look for that now, because those are the things that when you on repeated viewings that like I thought. Well, especially when I watched it last night, I was just enjoying it. I wasn't really, because I had in the past I had kind of like, oh, okay, yeah, all right. And I knew we were kind of doing it for the pod today, so I was just kind of trying to enjoy it. I wrote some notes and going through it. But another thing, to Scott's point, is that there's his positivity, like throughout the movie, is another kind of really endearing thing that he does. That shines through even when it's so maybe hard to do, and especially at the end when he's there's a you got to be excited just to know that there's a version of that letter that exists. He just carries on that that positivity throughout the whole movie, and it's like, hey, why don't you just be in a good mood, and he's just always battling stuff but with a positive kind of attitude, which I loved. I like.
He is super positive until he gets his soul crushed, and then he's super negative.
Right. Yeah.
He goes dark.
He goes very dark. He goes. Yeah. He's a lot. He's hot and cold. He's a lot. It's going to be
that's
interesting. Do they make it? Do they make it when they get to England? I don't know. I'd kind of like to see a follow up. Does this relationship make it to this 11-hour flight to London? Yeah. That'd be interesting to see.
Well, I think it's. Oh man, what is this? Another old age thing. I just lost my train of thought. Anyways, yeah. I mean, I think it goes on. I think it kind of survives, just because that's the thing. It reminds me a little bit of, what is it? Beyond Sunrise? Is that what it is? Or Before Sunrise, with the Ethan Hawke and the lady, and they meet on a train. And it rings a bell. Anyone?
No.
Oh man, Before Sunrise. Okay. Anyways, the Richard Linklater. Anyways,
I loved him as a game show
I think
host.
It would
be.
Yeah. All right. So here's.
I once owned about 12 to 18 copies of Say Anything on VHS.
Really?
I did. It was when Circuit City was going out of business, and they had all these VHS copies, and so I'd buy some, and the next time I was there, I'd buy some more. They were maybe like $4 each back then.
Yeah.
And I would keep some in my car, and I would have like one or two in my bag. And when I'd talk to people, I'd be like, "You ever seen Say Anything?" And here you go.
It's like you're
peddling. Watch this movie. I was peddling Say Anything. And I'd go, "Here you go. Watch it. Let me know what you think."
I got some Say Anything.
Just a big trench coat, which would be appropriate.
Yes.
Clash t-shirt underneath.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, so to that, I remember you showing me I can't remember if it was a picture or if it was a video. I think it was a picture of you at Halloween, and you were dressed like Lloyd Dobler, and you looked just like him. That dude that said that to you was you looked just like the dude.
That's back when I had long hair too, like shoulder length, like I cut it up. I had it a little longer, and I cut it up when Gavin Rossdale cut his hair, and so I brought it up a little bit to be current. And for a while, I would groom myself to look like John Cusack. So like I had a cover of Details magazine from when Grosse Pointe Blank came out.
Yes,
he was on the cover.
Yes,
and he was wearing like a black shirt with a purple tie, and my go-to for dress functions for a while was a black shirt and a purple tie. And I'd take the Grosse Pointe Blank album cover, CD cover, to Supercuts and be like, "Give me this," and I get the kind of pompadour kind of hair. So
yeah, that's where I saw you, that picture, because you were dressed. I think it was Halloween, and you were dressed as, which is the scene I was going to get to, is the dinner scene. You had the white shirt and a black tie, and yeah, and that was like, good Lord, that's John Cusack right there. But yeah. So then that brings us on to the dinner scene. So both of you guys, this goes to both of you guys. Obviously there's the big don't want to buy, sell anything.
Oh my God, so good.
But what else in that scene kind of brings all that together? What is about that scene that kind of I don't know, just it draws you in?
Scott, you want to go first?
Yeah, I think we've all had that awkward meal, you know, where you're kind of the odd man out, and
yeah,
whether it's with, you know, someone's parents for the first time or whatever it might be, or a business meeting. It's you know, he only knows her there, so he's like, you know, she's like, do you want to, you know, help me pick something out? And he's like, yeah. I'm going with you. I'm not going to stay down here with other people. And then just communicating with her, she pours the tea for him, goes to pour him, you know, more coffee or whatever it is, and he just makes the symbol, you know, like a little bit.
Yeah.
Just the communication there, and he's just taking it all in. He's just he's kind of like me, where he uses words like a sniper. Like they're thoughtful. He puts them out there when he needs to put them out there, in moments like that. And he's just taking it all in, and he just throws out, you know, you guys are great together. Like I'm not like that with anybody.
Yeah.
We've all been there, and you get to see that out of him.
Well, yeah, that you bring up a good point, because that's something that I noticed when I watched it last night, was that, well, one, he was nervous, but also he was still had the strength of character to be himself. And so, like you were saying, he was kind of, you know, economical with his words. You know, he wasn't like whatever like he was when he first met Dad, but he was more of like, you know, that just to hear you guys talk, you know, and just the ability to kind of carry on in the face of all these people judging him. And, you know, you got to understand too that they're out of high school, and Diane's gonna, you know, won this fellowship, and she's got her life planned, and he's just like, and that takes me back to my first love, my first girlfriend in high school, which the dad kind of reminds me of my girlfriend's dad at the time. He was an architect, and so he was really kind of, he had a lot of money, and I came from this kind of broken home, and I didn't really know what I was doing, and I didn't never thought about what I was going to do after high school. I just thought I was going to stay in Hillsburg my whole life. And so he would, you know, him and my mom became friends, and they would, you know, because we were going out for I think 2 years, and he would always just be like, well, it's going to be sad when they break up, you know, because to him, I was just not ever going to be in the future plans. And, you know, and my mom told me that, and I was, what? No way, we're going to survive, do all that stuff. And so that, I don't know, for some reason, that dinner scene always takes me back to that, because it reminds me of that attitude of like, because he kind of, you know, the dad kind of, what is his name, John Mahoney, he kind of has that look too at the beginning when he's talking about, you know, process or whatever, and he's just kind of like, yeah, okay. And then when he starts to talk about kickboxing, he's just like, you know, he has that look of like, Jesus, dude. Like,
yeah, the dad he's really good as a he can be kind of a scary dad, and especially for someone on a first date or a second date, because he's kind of established already before the dinner scene. When Lloyd first calls him, are you the guy with the Mustang? Or are you the guy with the Jeep? Are you the guy? So this happens all the time in this house.
Yeah.
So he loves just stringing him along. He's just toying with him, and he's like, you can hear how nervous Lloyd is on the other end of the phone, and he's kind of getting a kick out of it. And, you know, for Lloyd to make that point out, you guys are good together. You guys communicate well with each other, is not a real normal thing to say at the dinner table. It's not, you know, it's kind of out of left field. So, and a mature thing to say, because he's right, is that they do communicate well. They can say anything to each other. That's the kind of the point, right? And for, you know, then he does get a little bit nervous and goes, I don't want to sell, buy, or process anything. And but then he gets up from the table and walks over to the jukebox. and he's looking at it, and he points with it. He's got his hands in his pockets, and he points to the jukebox with his foot, which I thought was interesting because he talks about that he's in kickboxing. So I don't know, again, if that was Cusack's thing that he wanted to do there, but I thought that was an interesting choice for either the character or for Cusack, one way or the other. You got him to talk about, this is obviously a thing of pride for you, sir. It's in right in the middle of the house. And Dad says, it's, for $9,000. And that $9,000 number does come up a little later. So I thought that was a nice introduction for that topic to come up. The dinner scene was really, along with, the diner scenes, we've talked about those. It establishes quite a bit. You can get a lot of information out in a scene like that. It's really well done. And I'd be a nervous wreck too. You're sitting at the head of the table with 5 people you don't know, and this girl that you're like totally smitten with, and you've only spent maybe a day with total at this point. They're not dating. They're friends with what is it? Friends with
potential.
With potential. Thank you.
Yeah.
That dinner scene's really important.
And how convenient they were all there when the IRS agents show up.
Yeah, right.
Oh. It must be like what?
They work late hours.
Yeah. What was that?
It's summer.
We just want to let you know you're under criminal investigation. Okay, the letter would have done fine, but sure.
It's 7:00 at night.
Yeah, what's going on here?
We were in the neighborhood,
These guys are bucking for a promotion. The Fed's known to work late hours on a Saturday night, right?
Yeah. All right, so the next scene that I have is the car breakup scene. And then this is where I kind of like, it's, it's kind of dramatic, maybe overly, but it's so perfect for, I think, high school age people. That's how I was. I was just so like, I'm going to love you forever and just be a total douche in every other area of my life. But let's start with Scott again. What kind of feelings do you have when you watch that? Or what do you get out of it?
You got that. You got it right. Like that love at that stage and that age of your life. It's final and it's complete. Like you give it your all. For someone like Lloyd, which I think is very similar to the three of us, like you give your all, and to then be shut down, it's crushing. Cusack does a great job there. And you can see he's thinking about it. He's like, I can't believe you just broke up with me. The scenes following it where he's just driving, and I think we all remember that feeling when you could just drive to get your feelings out. And now you start thinking about, well, I got to buy gas and, I got to work tomorrow. You used to be able to just drive your feelings out and just put music on and go. And he ends up at a phone booth where it's raining on him. And after he gets off the call, he steps out kind of into the rain and he stays there.
Yeah.
And I was the type of person that I almost enjoyed the breakup more than the relationship because I got to feel those emotions. And I felt right while he was getting that rain on him, he was feeling it. Like he lingered there and he's like, I deserve this because this is how I'm feeling. And this is accurate right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's a very honest breakup. And it's, being given a pen, no one could ever give someone a pen the same way. Not that you give pens out very frequently as gifts, even if you're breaking up with someone, but.
Yeah, that's a good point because, I was in high school was a very emotional person because of reasons, but, and so I remember like every girl that I went out with, and I didn't go out with many girls, but every girl that I went out with was kind of like what are you getting for your 2-month anniversary and all this kind of stuff. And it was like, I remember I was talking to my cousin one time and he was like, what is this 3-month anniversary? What are you talking about? And I thought, it's my girl, this and that and everything. But yeah, so that's why it hits me. I mean, as you like Scott was saying, as you get older, you're just like, there's some. I want to go watch a movie tonight, so you don't want. Okay, bye. It's just not as, or at least for me, it's just not as. It's not as. I don't know what the word is. All or nothing. It's
Mm-hmm.
now there's lots of variables that go into kind of, and I've been single a long time, so I don't even know what it feels like to even worry about that stuff. So, but yeah, I
You
think
long for a heartbreak?
sometimes I just long for not a heartbreak anymore, but
Okay.
sometimes I just long for this like, uh, yeah, hey, you want to just go to a movie and then talk about it afterwards? I mean, to me, that sounds like a great date. Maybe have some food and we'll talk about the movie. Okay, bye.
Mm.
That's kind of where I'm at right now. But yeah. So, hey, so Tobe, what you got? Any other scenes that you? Because I
Well,
got the guys at the gas and sip.
well,
Next.
we have to, because he's come up so many times in past movies, and he's been in one of them. But Lloyd goes to the retirement community, and what movie does he show him? Cocoon with Wilford Brimley, and I'm
Of
all,
diabetes.
he's back, baby. Wilford, 42-year-old old man Wilford Brimley is back once again on the Gonna See My Friends podcast. I was like, yes.
Benjamin Button, man.
Oh my
I swear
God,
he's the
he's
original
everywhere.
Benjamin Button.
He is
Yeah.
everywhere. So I had that written down for sure to talk about. Hats off
What
to
it?
diabetes and Wilford Brimley. Oh
Oh shit.
boy. Yeah,
Yeah.
the relationship is just really quickly. It's hard to tell how much time is taking place. They go from friends with potential to she's telling him that she loves him to breaking up in the car, and I'm like, is this all one weekend? Like
Yeah.
this, it goes
Yeah.
really fast, and you could. I kind of wondered, does she do this with most of these guys that call the guy with the Ford, the guy with the, the list goes on, where she falls for him really fast, and then she's like, "Hang on, we need to spend some time apart." But the first, she's not sure who she's talking to originally when he calls, and after he gets
Yeah.
off the phone, she looks at the yearbook and goes, "Oh, right, like what? Ew, right? What? This is John Cusack. Like what? I didn't understand that. 6'3",
Yeah.
black hair. What do you? Anyway, but it's just kind of said a lot. And to Scott's point, you enjoy the breakup almost more. I mean, it gets very dark.
Yeah.
He's standing. It doesn't get a whole lot more dark than driving around and standing in the rain with the rain just pouring on you. He's at a phone booth and he's standing outside the phone booth. He could be dry inside the phone booth, but he's standing outside the phone booth, dumping rain on the poor guy. But so yeah, the breakup is kind of like it's a little strange to me, but it's honest because it probably does happen like that in high school. I love you, I love you. No, okay, we're done.
Yeah.
So there's that.
Yeah.
I had to remind myself.
Yeah.
I'm like, remember, this is now June of whatever 1989. They've graduated a couple of weeks ago. Maybe she's leaving at
No,
the
I
end
thought it
of
was
summer.
toward the end of summer.
It
Like
could
at
have
that
been.
point.
It's unclear. I had to Google what
Yeah.
is the timeline in this. It's
Yeah.
it's only the summer, right? Because she's gonna
Yeah.
leave for
Right.
the fellowship that she wins. But yeah, and then you got the B plot comes in after that with the tax evasion. There's kind of
Yeah.
two movies in one if you think about it. I mean, we've seen a lot of this. The guy chases the girl. She doesn't know who he is. We've seen this before, but then to add the
Yeah.
felonies, Dad's felonies is interesting,
Yeah.
and it does add a nice wrinkle to it.
Well, what do you guys think about that? Like, did you like the subplot of the IRS stuff? Because yeah, I thought it was great. I mean, I could have used maybe a little more. I mean, I don't know.
There's
Just
probably
more
some
of like,
scenes that are cut. I mean, he's in his office. He's got an office at home, but he's also at the office where he's arranging flowers, cutting flowers in the sink, and
yeah,
things like that. And I would have liked to have seen him interact a little bit more with the people that he is ripping off. I imagine there's
right.
probably some
Yeah.
of those scenes where he is helping these people. He's got to be some kind of estate planner of some kind.
Yeah, I
And
mean, I would have loved to have seen a little bit, not a whole like, a separate movie about it, but just a little more of like maybe
You don't.
ending a phone call. Yeah, I'll have that sale. I'll have
Yeah,
that
yeah,
to you right
yeah.
away.
Maybe that's what we need. Maybe
Yeah.
that's what
What
we
about you,
need.
Scott?
But
What did you think about it?
It's as watching it when I was younger, he was the villain, right?
yes,
He's the
Right.
dad keeping them apart.
Yeah.
And then watching it now as I'm older and having a child, I see him as he's like, yeah, this isn't going to last. I'm like, yeah, it's not going to last. It's not going to last.
Right.
He's perfectly fine to have that attitude
Yeah.
where he's it's almost like nothing really matters, and you have to hide that from your children.
Yeah.
And so you have to be like, yeah, that's great. You get this relationship, and that's great. But it's just going to falter, or the problem
Right.
they had at school isn't going to be a big problem a week from now, let alone 5 years from now.
right.
Right.
And so having his story now, watching it, I can see that Lloyd was kind of being earnest and his trajectory was upwards. Whereas
Yeah.
the dad was, he did all this stuff for his daughter and he's losing her. Plus he's being singled out for doing the shady stuff, which was like the $130,000 fine, which I looked up. It's like $330,000 fine in today's money.
Today.
Right.
Yeah.
So
Nice.
he's losing everything. That scene where he's in the bathtub,
Yeah.
just trying to keep it together and keep it to himself. That's a move that a teen would make. I remember feeling emotions and just being like, oh, I should, just sit in this corner or this alcove and look out the window. Like those types of things where he's just feeling alone and huddled down and allowing himself to do that and be safe. So now I start to feel, bad for him, but he did rip off old people.
Yeah.
So, he made their lives better.
I was just about to say that. Yeah.
But he was taking their money.
right.
So is it the worst crime in the world? Probably not. Because I saw a deleted scene where the IRS guy was talking to like 3 of the elderly people. And he was like, so we were able to get you most of your money back. Not all of it, but most of it. And this woman goes, that nice man took me to the bank. And the IRS guy goes, yeah, but he took your money. She goes, yeah, but he took me to the bank. So they weren't being hurt by it.
Right.
And he felt like it was a victimless crime. And it probably was still something not legally allowed to do.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
See, that's interesting. That's what I'm talking about. We would have liked to have seen, maybe not him committing crimes so much, but that would have been something that would have been good to leave in, I feel, because she's like, yeah, but he did all these things for me. Wow, that's really interesting. That's and
well,
you have a good point in, they're trying to do everything right. These kids who just graduated high school and they're trying to, they take everything very seriously. This was a very serious relationship until it isn't. Honesty is important in their family, but he's being dishonest and he's got stacks of cash right there in the room, and he's buying her rings and he's buying, he's doing all the things, look around the house and see if are there expensive things under $9,000, and she kind of cuts him off as he gets to that point, but the $9,000 number comes up twice, and that's where I think she kind of puts it together, and she's fighting for him, and he's, the adults are often the shitheads of these things, and the high school kids, who the adults think are the shitheads, are actually the most mature ones in the story, and that's I think there's a lot of truth to that in today's society for sure.
Well, is the 9,000, is that the threshold for like having to claim it?
Yes.
Is that what?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how I took that.
That's what I just want to make.
Yeah,
sure.
that's how I mean, that's what it is. Knowing, if I were to give you $10,000, I would have to pay taxes on that. So, or under anything under 10,000. So, so 9,000. Keep it under 9,000. Yeah.
No red flags.
It's all good. You can do whatever you want under 9,000.
Let's get to the gas and sip scene, because this is totally, I think, still holds up today, because I don't know about you guys, but I have some relatives like this, and it's really disheartening to see people that go through life and have trials and tribulations and still yet can't seem to get 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 a clue, I suppose is the word. But I mean, these are high school dudes. But I always love this scene because it's so indicative of kind of the gap between where Lloyd is emotionally and probably the rest of his friends, and why the three girls that are, or was it, yeah, those three girls that he hangs out with, they're always just like, in some way or another, basically they're just saying, "We love you, Lloyd," with everything that they say. Would you really go out with a guy like Lloyd? Yeah, that kind of thing. So I think it kind of shows, the scene kind of shows the gap between, like the high school kids and where Lloyd is, especially because he has been overseas. He's an army brat probably. So you kind of learn how to, deal with the things that are kind of thrown at you because you have no other choice. You're in a new place But what are some thoughts
Corey
from
also
you guys?
Corey also says, like, she says, "Don't be a guy, be a man," right? And that's
Yeah.
the separation of the gas and sip. That's him saying, "I'm just gonna go be a guy," and
Right.
talking to them through this stuff, and seeing, no, that's not who I am.
Not helpful.
I'm more of a man. It's not something that I'm gonna take any advice. I'm gonna go my own route. I'm feeling
Right.
better about where I was. That was a mistake,
Yes. Yeah. That's what he says. Yeah, exactly. Right after all of that stuff. And plus you got the little kid that's with him too. So it's just like, oh geez. What are you guys doing here? 9:00 on a Saturday and no
Yeah.
women anywhere. My choice, man.
That's right.
I
Yeah,
just
he's
love that
definitely the
scene.
standout in his group. He's
Yeah.
his sounding board is he realizes pretty quickly is like, these guys are no help. Let's just take you. We're gonna find you a girl tonight, and he's like, that's not what I want. Have you guys not heard a word I've said?
Dude, name a girl. I'll hook you up with
Yeah,
her.
right. Exactly.
Diane
There you
Court. I can't do it, man.
go.
Just right away. Just have.
But they give him a hard time about getting broken up in the car. They really give him a hard time. They're like, "Oh, she
in the
did
Malibu.
your car."
Malibu.
Right. Then they start rapping. And they rapped Lloyd with Null and Void, and I was just like, "Oh my god, this is fantastic."
Oh shit.
Well, I need that rap. Tell me that rap is on that soundtrack you got.
Oh, I wish it was. Actually,
damn.
it's on some. I think it's on the regular version
Is
as
it?
the hidden track.
Okay.
So, Scott? Do you have the CD version of this?
I don't know if I have it anymore. I probably have it in one of those binders that have been
Yeah,
sitting collecting
because it
dust.
says that rap is the hidden track.
Sweet.
And I don't have the CD anymore. I just had the vinyl. So, and it's not. I don't think it's on there. I could be, but I haven't. Yeah, that rap is awesome.
So good.
And that kind of goes hand in hand for me, anyway. Not hand in hand, but it's in terms of iconic scene is the boombox scene, and this is kind of the I don't know. Scott, take it away, man.
It's been done by so many people as references.
Yeah.
I'm sure the Muppets probably did it at some point.
Oh, right.
It's very iconic, and you can have people that know that but haven't seen the movie.
Yeah.
And it's Lloyd just trying to get out that last bit of his love for her, just put it out there, and just this is all I can do at this point. I've said everything I can. Here's what it is: something big, something symbolic, and roll my dice and see what I get.
And apparently, after that scene, she doesn't even go to the window or anything.
Nope.
Zero respect.
Yeah.
Dude, but still, when I watch it, I just see, oh man, my heart just goes out to them, both of them, because they're, Diane's got all this stuff that she's dealing with, plus the heartbreak, but, like she says, she was wrong about everything, or I think it was in the deleted or the alternate scene of when he breaks his nose and she's like, I love you, I love you.
Mm-hmm.
So when they're doing it outside in the alternate scene, she was like, I just feel so out of control. I don't know. I feel like I don't know anything, and so I think to see that scene earlier where she's just lying in bed listening to that, I think you can kind of feel that of like all the stuff of my dad and the Reed Fellowship and all my life is my trajectory is planned, but there's this boy that I love, and you can just feel that in her when she's in her bed and she hears that song. And then when I see Lloyd, you see that look on his face of like, just, just come on,
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's what I. Um, and so that scene for me is always like Scott was saying, it's so iconic and it's so kind of, it's like as Toby would say, it's like in the zeitgeist
Mm-hmm.
any kind of romantic kind of feeling in any movie. You're just like, I'm waiting for that scene, you know. But yeah, it's a great scene. What do you think about that, Toby?
So, I mean, again, it's been 20 years probably since I've seen it, and at the time, seeing it before is, hey, this is like kind of like a Romeo and Juliet kind of thing, almost. It's the way I used to look at it, was like a Romeo and Juliet kind of scene. But this time when I watched it before the podcast, he's out there like, this is the last chance. She doesn't come to the window, and I think he's trying to verify for himself. Like, here, I'm going to play the song that was playing when we made the first time we made "Sweet Sweet Love," and if she doesn't come to the window, can see the windows open, and if she doesn't come to the window, then she's really just basically used him for that amount of time. And if she can't come for this, then it's over. And that's why he's so mad when she does show up later, because you're like, why? He went from obsessed with her to then she shows up and is telling him, I love you, and he's just all whatever, and when you're younger watching that, it's a little hard to go, I mean, you got what you wanted, here she is, but
right.
I think it harkens back to the fact that she didn't respond to him having the boombox outside playing In Your Eyes, which that was just soul crushing for him. He's all, okay, no, she's dead to me now.
That's a good point. Yeah, I never thought about that.
And it has been done so many times. It was done on Family Guy. It was done. I mean, any of the movies, like the scary movies. I mean, all you have to do is hold a boombox over your head, and everybody knows what that's referencing. Yeah, it's a great, and it must be something. The movies, like
maybe
the scary movies. He's writing. It's the third or fourth screenplay that he wrote. I have to think he's writing. It's the third or fourth screenplay that he wrote. I have to think in the mind of a 21-year-old who's writing this
19
in high school,
or 21 or something like that. Yeah.
Something people don't really think about too with that scene, that boombox would be heavy. Like those things take D batteries, like 8 D batteries.
Yeah.
And I looked it up. In Your Eyes, the album version is 5 minutes 23 seconds. So he's a kickboxer. That's working out his legs. I mean, his arms probably aren't as valid as his legs are as strong. So that would have taken a good amount of effort there. So good for him.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a great point.
And when they filmed it originally, in the outtakes, you hear a Fishbone song that they were playing, as opposed to In Your Eyes, and then they changed it. I think the story goes that Peter Gabriel kept saying no because he thought it was the movie Wired, that John Belushi movie. Have you ever seen that movie?
But why did he just got his signals crossed?
I think he got sent the wrong screener.
Okay.
So he was saying, I don't want to put my song.
He's all, this doesn't fit in this movie at all.
Oh yeah,
that makes sense.
I'm glad they went to that, because now, when you go see Peter Gabriel live, that's still a staple of his sets. And that whole album, So, is just It's amazing. I don't know if you guys.
Well, anytime you hear the song, you think of Say Anything.
Yeah, yeah. But the way he performs it too, it's its own. Now it's its own thing. Like,
Okay.
it does tie back to Say Anything, definitely. And I think of it every time I. But when you watch him perform it, it's just something so much bigger, and it's
Wow.
it's so great. It's just, I mean, look it up on YouTube. Well, there's a bunch of versions on YouTube. There's a couple
Okay.
that are like from his '94 tour that's on YouTube, and I mean, it's just amazing, you know. So that's a great song, dude.
Yeah.
So, any other scenes you guys want to talk about? That's all I have written down, really. I have one more. I have. We kind of talked about the Lloyd and Diane reuniting. The prison scene. I don't know. What do you guys think about that one? That last scene where the dad finally kind of says what he wanted to say the whole time. You feel like
it turns everything, right? Because Lloyd's more comfortable now, and he's the one with the power, and
yeah,
you know, the dad just has lost everything, and the most important thing to him was his daughter, right?
Right.
And the fact that Lloyd even went in kind of shows who Lloyd is.
Right.
Like, they could have just drove away when she's like, "No, I can't do it. I thought I could, probably." You know, there wasn't a scene like that, but I'm guessing she's like, "I thought I could. I can't go in there." And he's probably trying to talk her into doing it because he knows, hey, you shouldn't leave things, you know, unended.
Yeah, that's a scene. To that point, that scene outside when they reunite instead of the dojo. So that scene I was talking about, they actually addressed that, and she was like, "I don't know, I don't want to ever see him again." And she's like, "You know, my dad's in Germany. I talked to my dad on a phone. He's a voice on a phone. I'd rather have, how does he say it? I'd rather have an asshole for a father than a voice on a phone. So go and take care of that." And so he kind of talks her into it. And that would be nice to leave in, I think.
Yeah.
I could see why they took it out, but because the scene now is kind of short and sweet, and it kind of solidifies their relationship. Like, we're gonna do this. But that scene, you can tell they were trying to figure out how to play because it wasn't coming together. But you know, that would have been a nice little tidbit to leave in, I think. But you know,
100%. I mean, they must have been worried about time because it is an hour and 40 minutes.
Yeah,
and it's a long movie for a romantic comedy. I can tell you this right now. I'm not going in to go visit the girlfriend's dad in the federal penitentiary. I'm getting it. If we're going to the airport, we're going to the airport. And if she says I don't want to go see him, I'd be like, okay,
right.
I'm not doing it.
And then, like Scott was saying,
yeah,
to Scott's point, it shows.
Not when I'm 18 years old. I'd probably do it now.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
yeah, I'd do it now.
Yeah.
I mean, my father-in-law, God forbid, he's locked up in a, you know what I mean? I'd definitely go and visit. But knowing the guy on a half a dozen occasions, having seen him and been nervous around him the whole time, it is a big. You're going to go in and you'll be probably the only visitor that he's had since he's been in locked up. So.
Right.
Yeah, he's good for Lloyd. Lloyd's he's very mature. He's a very mature 18-year-old here.
Well, like Scott was saying, I think to his point, the gloves are come off, and so now they can actually kind of communicate without this veneer of I have to be nice and it's my daughter and whatever, you know. Now they have a chance to actually be real, and what you see is the dad is just, I'm incarcerated, Lloyd, but Lloyd is still Lloyd. Lloyd is who he's always been, even in the turmoil of the relationship and the things that happen in the course of the movie. Like, Lloyd is still Lloyd because he's always been Lloyd. He's always been himself, even when it's hard. And so it speaks to the character of kind of. It's just looking positively, that worldview of like, mend your fences, don't burn your bridges and that kind of thing. I don't know. Yeah, I agree with Scott, man. It kind of shows, what Lloyd's made out of. Kind of cool. I like it.
Did you guys do a count of how many times they said the name of the movie in the movie? Because that's something I love to do. I will. If I'm watching
just
a
read
movie
twice. Yeah,
I heard it twice, and if I'm watching a movie with my wife and they say it, I cannot not turn to her and go, "They said the name of the movie.
Yes,
That's the name of the movie." And I love that. So I was keeping an ear out, and I got two as well.
Two, okay. I heard it once for sure, but yeah, that's great. I always think of Peter Griffin. Oh, they said it.
Yeah, I think once she says it to him, or he's like, "You can say anything to me," and then later on she goes, "It feels good because I can say anything to you," kind of condescendingly.
You're a liar.
Yeah.
Thief. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
All right.
Nice.
Cool. Let's break out the Klay Thompson Award. Game 6 Klay Thompson Award. Toby, you go first since I think you already said who yours was.
I did. It was Jeremy Piven. It's not much of a cameo because he is in the parking lot scene. But I did already. That was mine. So I'll go ahead and say Jeremy Piven's. Especially when he's tackling Lloyd at the. I mean, when he's hammered, he steals the scene, the party scene for sure. He's just one of the knuckleheads in the parking lot a little bit later on, but the party scene he definitely steals.
Yeah. Well, he has in the parking lot. He has that Brian Fontana kind of thing. I've been in love once.
That's right.
Like I real bad.
Yeah, I'm never going to happen again. Okay,
Scott, what about you, man? What do you got?
I was going with his nephew, Jason, and the little kid.
Oh, nice.
Because he's like, "No, my brother, you have to buy your own." Like everything he's in, hook it off the jab. And kicking it with the headband on. Even when he's just after the breakup and he's on the couch, just passed out with them. Like the kid's leg is like twitching, and I'm like, "Is that kid really asleep? Like, is he a really good actor? Very method? What is he doing?" But that little kid, like, everything in there, just J-Man, just
not in my ear. I had Piven, but I also had Joe. Lauren, I think it's Lauren Dean. I think that's his name. He was in Space Cowboys with Clint Eastwood, I think, in 2000 in Mumford. But Joe. Joe lies. And just because I think and just because he's such a knucklehead and he's just kind of like I don't know. I laugh every time I see it. Why do you think I keep her tapes, man? They're gonna be valuable someday. So that's mine. I love that dude. That and honorable mention is to the dude that they spend 3 hours to try to find his house, and they spend all night driving. After the party scene, hey, that's my house. I live there.
That's great. This gives me hope.
Who are you? Like, what? Why? I'm Lloyd Dobler. Great. All right. Cool. Yeah, that dude. That's kind of those two guys are my favorite. Scott, you had something that you said that was pretty cool. Now I'm not doing any math, so I'm not going to figure out an average. But you said something like top 3. Cusack movies.
Yeah. What's your top 3 to 5 Cusack movies in no particular order?
Yeah. Well, I have. So, for me, the whole thing is, I had to think about the genres, and you go into the dramas, and he's got some good movies. You go into the kind of the thrillers, he's got some good, and then you got the comedies where he started out in. So that's where I kind of, since we're talking about the teen rom-coms, I kind of kept it lighthearted. So I did 3. So I got number 3. I got One Crazy Summer. Do you guys ever watch that movie?
Mm-hmm.
I think YouTube's got it for free. You can watch it. That movie for me is. Well, I saw him in 16 Candles, and then I saw him in Class. So those are the 2 movies I saw him first in. But One Crazy Summer was a movie that I watched that I didn't see. I have to this day. I've never seen Better Off Dead. I got to see that movie.
Oh no!
But yeah, a lot of people say that. So then number two, High Fidelity. He kind of stays in the same genre as this movie. Say Anything. It's just like an older version, I think, of him. But the surrounding cast, the talking to the camera, or the breaking the fourth wall, just I think it just kind of encompasses an older Lloyd for me. That's why I love that movie. And then this one, Say Anything, is like my favorite youth movie of John Cusack. So those are my three that I and in the comedy field. Now, if we went to like dramas, I got I mean, honorable mention would be the one with Minnie Driver. I only saw that a few times.
Gross Point Blank, yeah.
That sneaks in there too. But I love those. I love his. He's just got great comedic skills, I guess, without being overly cheeseball. He's able to kind of find that right balance. So those are my 3 or 4. How about you, Scott?
Say Anything's definitely in there.
Yeah.
You got me thinking about what I've heard referred to as like his trifecta of those teen movies, which is Sure Thing,
Sure
One
Thing.
Crazy Summer,
Yeah.
Better Off Dead, maybe even Hot Pursuit. Kind of in that same wheelhouse, same time frame that he did those things before he jumped to Say Anything. And I think I saw an interview where he was saying, "I graduated already. Like I've done those basic teen movies. Like let me do something more meaty," and that's why he liked Say Anything.
Yeah.
I haven't seen it in a long time, but I really like Tapeheads.
Yeah, I haven't seen that one. I want to see that one.
Time. Tim Robbins in there too.
Yeah.
Like Grosse Pointe Blank is in there. The Grifters was a good. If we're getting away from comedy there, but The Grifters is solid. And then he's in Con Air. Like,
yes,
who doesn't like Con Air?
Con Air's great.
If Con Air is in the list of something, like yes, let's Con Air, let's do it. Let's not And then someone hands you a blow dryer and like, no, I mean the movie. Have you seen the movie? Here's 12 of them in my backpack. I bought them at Circuit City.
Here, no, that's Say Anything. Hold on, I got it in here somewhere.
Hold on.
How about you, Tobes?
All right, so I'll change my list up a little bit. My number 1 is High Fidelity.
Yeah.
I'm going to go on opposite. I'll tell you what my number 1 is. I'm going to go number 2 as Being John Malkovich.
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
And then
I've only seen that a handful of times as well.
It's a lot. You can see it over and over and over again. There's so many things going on, but he's great in it as per usual. And then 3 is Better Off Dead. That's the OG for me. That's the OG John Cusack movie for me. Had it recorded off TV, watched it after school every other day for a while, that kind of thing. You could bury me with that movie. I'd be okay with it.
That's like, for me, that's like One Crazy Summer. I just watched that one. I can't remember if it was before Say Anything. I think it was before Say Anything that I saw it. But it was before I liked movies, or that was the thing that kind of that I got into. Because when I was a kid, I would just watch movies all the time, but I never gave thought of like, oh, who's in it, who directed it, or it was just if it was funny or not. It was kind of like Cannonball Run in the early '80s for me. It was like I haven't watched that since then, I think. And then when I watched little parts of it, I'm like, why did I like it so much?
There's like a handful of scenes where you're like, oh right.
Right.
Hilarious and right.
So for John Cusack movies, like I'd never feel that. I'm always like, oh wait, I haven't seen this in a while. I got to see this again. And that was One Crazy Summer because it's just so silly. You got the cartoons in there when he's an artist, so they have those cartoon breaks in there, and I don't know. I think that's probably why when I was a kid it appealed to me so much. But yeah, so let's see. Would you remake this movie today? I don't think I would.
No.
I think it's perfect. I think it's a great movie, and can't touch it. How about you, Scott? Would you remake it today?
It'd be tough to. I mean, you'd have to make it in the same time frame too, because the age it was created in has a lot to do with it.
Right.
So many things, like you can have a category of how different would this movie be if it was made now, and how short would it be because of cell phones?
Yeah.
You would just see a bunch of little text come up on the screen because Lloyd would
Yeah.
not be in the same room with his female friends. Or you'd be watching him play Minecraft with them. It's you couldn't make it today because it was a different world. Not because people wouldn't like to hear the story and it's not universally themed, but it just wouldn't be the same.
Well, that's interesting that you said that, because I was I think that because Lloyd was kind of, he wasn't, you could tell he was kind of friends with everybody maybe in high school, but he was his own person. And I knew a lot of people like that in high school, or not a lot, but there was a few that just, they did theater, but they also did a sport. That sport was swimming. And so it was, you're a jock, but you're not really, because you swim. And, in my school, football was the biggest thing. In fact, we used to play Toby's school all the time. But it was football, and then it was soccer, and then baseball. And swimming was this little. Anyway, so I had friends that were kind of on the outskirts of everything, even though they kind of participated. But they were their own person, even in high school, which for me was kind of what I aspired to when I would hang out with these people. Like, they just kind of knew what they liked. They didn't let the outside influence them too much. And that's how I kind of feel about Lloyd. So when you do that now, it would have to be something like that, where it's more of like, I'm a Twitch streamer, or, I like to do this. And because there's so many more avenues now to kind of express yourself at a younger age. Because before, we just had high school, and then you'd go home, and then you would do homework, or maybe if you're on a team, you'd go to practice, and then that was kind of how you defined yourself. And nowadays it's just so many other things that you could do. So yeah, that's a good point. Yeah. Cool. All right. Cool. Anything else to add? Anyone? Nothing? All right.
This was fun to revisit. And it was great to have Scott on. Scott, welcome anytime.
We got to do Pee-wee next time.
Yeah.
I love that movie too.
Let's do it.
And also one other thing I wanted to ask you really quick. Have you ever given up the physical media? Did you ever kind of slow down on it, or because I'm trying to get back into it?
Mm-hmm. I did. So back when you'd have everything displayed like a badge of honor, right? Back when it was like CD cases and you'd have them on your wall, and we started to put them into binders. Yeah. We packaged up all our Blu-rays as soon as we could scan them and get them on Vudu. So we still have them. They're just, not on display. And I was just looking for Black Friday at binders to put them in, thinking, can I get rid of the actual case, maybe free up some space? But we're trying to get back into the physical stuff, at least for the movies we really care about.
Yeah.
If we're thinking about it, we're like, okay, let's buy a copy of that versus just get a streaming.
Yeah. Yeah, because I had an incident, I was telling Toby about it a couple pods ago, where I went to go play Young Frankenstein because I had bought that through Apple, and it's gone. Oh, this probably happened a couple years ago, actually. But it was just gone, and I realized, wait, but I bought it. How can they just take it away?
Yeah.
And then you start to read articles about how, Apple and probably other kind of...
Would they claw it back?
Yeah, I think they just deleted it. I think they lost the license for that movie, because there's other 20th Century Fox movies that you can get. But I don't know. And there's a lot of other Mel Brooks movies you can buy, digitally. But for some reason...
You gave me high fidelity on my iPod back at 20 years ago. You would, back when you could just take your iPod and go to somebody's house and plug it in and just drag everything onto it. Yeah. And then they caught on to that fairly quickly. But you had a bunch of movies. I had high fidelity. I would watch that all the time on the little screen on the iPod, the old school iPod with the little dial thing.
Yeah.
That was, watching a movie on a 1-inch screen. It was, so
while you worked out,
they're just gone. You can just look in your library and it not be there anymore.
Yeah. Whoa. I mean, apparently. And So that's kind of scared me. So I've been trying to buy. I'm buying CDs again.
Sure.
I'm buying. I go down to the next record store here in Santa Rosa.
Yeah.
And they have like $2 clearance CDs, and I go. It's a lot of crap, but there's some good stuff that that I found.
Okay.
And I'm buying vinyl, and I'm also buying tapes, cassette tape, and I'm trying to buy Blu-rays. I bought the Dunes in Blu-ray. So yeah, I'm just trying to get back all my stuff because when I moved to the city in '09, I moved all my stuff, and then as I got further and further into school, I realized, I don't need all. I could just stream it. I could just buy it from Apple, and I don't have to take up space because I had. My room was down in the garage, and so I had all these like cupboards and big drawers, and I just filled them with all my DVDs. And so I lost a good chunk of those when I moved out because I was like, oh man, I just don't have room. I can't carry all this stuff. So now I'm finding myself buying Blu-rays. That's what I'm kind of getting back into buying. So,
I ordered this like 2 weeks ago. I have the cassette. It's the soundtrack to the movie Bandwagon. It was an independent movie, and I forget when it came out, but it was like a Sundance type film, and I had it on VHS years and years ago. I had a buddy buy it for me for Christmas, and I have the cassette, but I'm like I can't find it streaming anywhere, so I wanted to have the CD so I can then rip it and have it forever. Back when soundtracks would have the clips of the movie in there too, which I sorely miss. I love that so much. You go back to Mallrats or the Kevin Smith movies, and you get those little or Tommy Boy soundtrack.
Yeah,
played many of those. Just those little sound clips.
Well, we got to have you back on for like Mallrats and Pee Wee, and I want to do High Fidelity. I want to talk about that movie too. So
I'm in.
Eventually, I think in the new year we're gonna start. I don't know. Me and Toby have some plans, so whenever you want to come on, Scott. You're welcome to come on, man. You can come on every week, as far as I'm concerned. You're great guest.
Yes.
And So anyway, I guess that's it. I guess that's it for this week. Thanks again, Scott, and we're gonna have you on soon. Pee-wee's Big Adventure. Tobias Maximus.
Yes, sir.
As usual.
Good to see you again. Hope you had a happy Thanksgiving.
Yeah. I hope everybody. Yeah. And Scott, stick around for a second after we stop recording because we'll finish up with some stuff. But everybody else,
I'll sign all the disclaimers. I'll sign them all.
We have to buy and sell processed things. It has to process real quick.
Yeah. So we'll see you. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you again next week. All right. Thanks, guys.